Alright guys, so here's the review of the Boderry Seaturtle.Titanium watch. So if you've been around the channel for a while, you'll know I actually checked out one of the first Boderrys on YouTube, I think. That was going back quite a while now. So it's a brand I quite enjoy. Obviously I've not checked one out for a while. There's just not been anything that's really done it for me, that's interested me, until this one. So been trying it out for a while. Full disclosure, we're sent the watch for free, don't have to send it back, but you know the score. So I'm going to change the way I do my reviews, going to keep it 100% honest all the time, no matter what. So, question is this as good as previous ones? Let's jump right in and find out. So, here's the packaging it comes in. It's actually a pretty nice leather kind of case, with the Boderry branding on the top there. But before we get into this, it actually comes in a few other boxes before that. So, that comes in this box, which has got like a leather bottom to it. Then that comes in an even bigger box, and then on top of that you also get this Boderry branded bag. So I think they've gone a little bit overboard with the packaging. For me personally, I think this on its own would have been enough. Just put this in a nice small box for packaging and shipping. That would have done the job, because it is a nice one, as I say. So it actually unclips on both sides, which is a little unusual. Don't really know why you'd want to do that, but perhaps there's some reason that I'm missing. If you know what it is, let me know down in the comments. But we'll get all this out of the way and then we'll talk about the watch. And here's the actual watch. So as I say, this is the titanium version, but if you don't want titanium, they also do it in bronze as well. But because you've got pretty unusual case materials, they're fairly simply finished, which you tend to get with bronze and titanium. So it's just fully brushed, this one. But it's nicely done. You've got some nice high polish details on that bezel though, so just break it up a little bit. Before we get on to the rest of it, let's quickly talk about the dimensions. So we've got a diameter of 41mm, a thickness of 12.1, lug width of 20, and then the all important lug to lug is coming in at 48. So it's under that important 50mm, so it should be a good size for most people with average size wrists, like myself, around 7 inch. So let's talk about that dial. So you can see we've got a pretty unique design on there, that kind of honeycomb finish on the dial. And then we've got printed Boderry logo and branding at the top. Automatic 100 meter at the bottom. And then that little blue accent on the 100 meter, 330 feet. Just to add a little splash of colour. Got the date window at the 3 o'clock with a high polish frame around it. And then you can see the hands are also high polished too, as are the surrounds on those indices, which are actually not circular, they're octagonal, so kind of matching that honeycomb style pattern, as is the second hand, which you can see coming around now. So again, nice little design touch, something a little bit different. So if we zoom back out, and then we'll talk about the rest of it. So we talk about the strap. It's a pretty chunky strap. Leather one. Nicely stitched. We've actually got matching titanium hardware as well, which is branded. Do appreciate that. And then when it comes to the case back, we've got a pretty nice design on that too. We've got that sea turtle there. And then we've got the Boderry around the outside, the fact that it's 100 meter water resistant, and then just the model number. And here's a screw down case back. When it comes to the bezel, this is one of the things I'm not overly keen on. It's 120 click, it's an aluminium insert, so right off the bat some people might not like that, they might prefer ceramic. I think it suits this kind of watch, but the issue I have is that it just sounds a little bit off. I can't really explain why, but it's just not like a crisp. Oh, there you can kind of tell with some of them, it kind of slides instead of clicking. It's not the crispest of clicks. Has a tiny bit of play, but not too much. It's just a touch on the light side, and as I say, the clicks just aren't as crisp as I'd like. But it does line up nicely, so no issues with that. So let's test now whether we've got sapphire crystal on this. Using the trusty Diamond Selector 2. And yeah, we have got sapphire crystal. So it's always good to see. Oh, one thing I forgot to mention, when it comes to the stitching on this strap, it's nicely done. No issues with it. Bar, this is a little bit odd, this bit at the bottom here. I'm not entirely sure whether it's meant to be like this or something's gone wrong and they've just forgotten to do that bottom little section. Also, you might have noticed that as well. That was my fault. When I was putting the buckle bit on, I got it a little bit too close and kind of scraped it across a bit. So I've left a bit of a mark on that. But otherwise, the strap is holding up really nicely. So when it comes to the crown, we've got a nice sound crown there with the Boderry logo again. And then we'll talk about the movements here as we're talking about this. So it's a screw down crown. Unscrew it. So the movement in this is a Miyota 8215. So pop it out once. You can change the date. Pop it out again. You'll see the second hand's still going, so we don't have hacking. It's one of the downsides with the 8215. And then obviously we can just change the time. And then pop it back in. Then you've got hand winding. And then obviously screw it back down. All works well, but it is a little on the basic side now, the 8215. They have actually released an upgraded 8315. Would have been nice to see that in this, but they don't have it unfortunately. So now, let's check out what the loom's like on this. So you can see we've got a bit there, but charge it up, give it a proper chance. So you can probably see already coming through, we've actually got a pretty interesting loom profile on this one. That honeycomb dial is actually lighting up, as well as the indices and the hands obviously. But there it is. So that honeycomb section, that's C3, so it's got that green colour, whereas the indices and the hands and that loom pip are BGW9. But straight away you can see that honeycomb section unfortunately doesn't stay loomed very long. It's pretty much entirely gone already. A little disappointing. If they're going to go to the trouble of actually doing that, it would have been nice if they'd done it so it actually lasts at least a half decent amount of time. The way it is at the moment, it's just a little bit of a gimmick more than anything. When it comes to the rest of the loom though, it's nicely done. No patchiness at all, consistent across the hands and the indices. If I had one little gripe, perhaps it's a little too small, the area on the hands, because they do taper quite a lot, so there's not a lot of area to actually get loom on them. So perhaps make the hands slightly bigger or possibly slightly thicker to try and fix that. But otherwise, the rest of the loom is pretty good. Not the best, but decent. So all that's left to do now is show you what it's like on wrist, and then we'll wrap this up. So this is what it looks like on my 7-inch wrist. As I say, really comfortable with this strap. Nice and soft and supple. And obviously it's really light with it being titanium. So you can see I'm wearing mine a little bit looser at the moment. That's because the weather here in the UK has just gone a bit crazy. It's getting close to 30 degrees C, which for us is just unheard of pretty much. So I'm kind of melting here. So wearing a leather strap watch, I'm wearing it a bit looser. So as for this watch overall, I do quite like it, although there are a few little issues. Firstly, that bezel, it's not the sharpest kind of clicking in action, so not great. Also, when it comes to the movement, the 8215 isn't my favourite. You get a little bit of rotor noise, and also you don't have hacking, which for me isn't that big a deal, but I know for some people it might be. A little disappointed with that loom on the dial, as I said. If they're going to go to the trouble of looming that honeycomb kind of section, they need to add a bit more, because otherwise it's pretty much useless and just a bit of a gimmick, because it, as you can see, only lasts a few seconds really. Other than that though, I can't really fault it. No issues other than that. they're kind of nitpicky ones, if I'm being honest. Because overall, I think they've done a nice job. One possible thing I probably would change, though, is those hands. Just make them a little bit thicker, just so you can get a little bit more lume in them. But other than that, not too bad at all. If you're after a nice titanium watch, I think I'd probably recommend this one. Although, that being said, if this one isn't doing it for you, I've got another Boderry down here, which I'd definitely recommend. If you haven't seen the review for that one, I'll leave a link to that up here. Check that one out, because that's got some pretty interesting design touches too. But that's it for this one, guys. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.